Her paper is entitled, "My President is Black, Social Optimism in Obama-Era Rap Music."
I just realized there's a light here. So it doesn't work.
Cynthia is a first-year graduate student at Bucknell University, pursuing a master's degree, a Master's of Arts in English. She plans on focusing on cultural and gender studies and will be continuing on for a PhD in English. She's already contributed several pieces of poetry to literary reviews, and she's presented at other conferences. And also, she was invited this past summer to join the Rutgers English Diversity Institute, which is designed to increase the diversity in academic graduate programs.
So I'm going to start off by playing a little clip of a song that I'm going to be referencing throughout my paper extensively, so that we can get a good visual and oral grasp of what I'm talking about. Or not. Okay. It has been a little over a year since the November 2008 election of Barack Obama, the first black president of the United States, just 144 years after the end of slavery in America. Considering the black community's frustration and disillusionment with political representation in past elections, including those with African American nominees, it seems improbable that the hip-hop community had any involvement in this most recent presidential election. This sense of improbability is based both on the black community's disillusionment as well as the often acknowledged political apathy within hip-hop culture. However, over this last year, there was a tremendous call by rappers for complete communal support of Barack Obama's efforts to become the next president. This is evident in the many lyrics and songs created by hip-hop artists during the campaign leading up to and beyond election night. In this paper, I will examine the positive changes in the socio-political atmosphere within the black community, as they are reflected in the lyrics of songs released by today's hip-hop artists. I will also engage various positive allusions to political black leadership in the United States within contemporary hip-hop songs. I'm interested in specifically examining rappers who presently appeal directly to mainstream audiences and have a social impact on listeners through major media outlets. Thus, I will focus on the following artists: Young Jeezy, Nas, Common, Jay-Z, and Lil Wayne, some of whom have commented on the socio-political atmosphere on previous recordings as well. Hip-hop music's political discourse has, in the past, exposed the social disconnect between black Americans and their politicians. Songs like Fight the Power and Fuck the Police by rap groups Public Enemy and NWA emblematize the discontent of the black community in the late 80s and early 90s. Older hip-hop lyrics such as these emphasize an ever-present oppression force consisting of state institutions and the white political power structure. Ironically, the skepticism that was so prominent before, especially expressed within the hip-hop community, has dissipated, at least in the mainstream, and transformed into the present-day expressions of social optimism, with Barack Obama as the central symbol of that optimism. Mark Anthony Neal, professor of black pop culture at Duke University, states the following in an NPR interview entitled "Obama Hip Hop from Mixtapes to Mainstream." Whether it's Katrina 3 years ago, the LA riots in 1992, Jesse Jackson's run to 1984, you know hip-hop was seen as black America's first response. But if you look at it in a more contemporary sense, now you have rank-and-file rappers like Ludacris, Nas, Young Jeezy, who very much became committed to the process and engaged in the electoral process. This involvement and newfound commitment generated an aura of respect and confidence for black political leadership, namely due to Barack Obama's communicative connection to the lower end of the socioeconomic spectrum and his expressed earnestness in equalizing the playing field for all classes and races. James Peterson's article, Dead Presidents, Money and Mortal Themes in Hip-Hop Culture, explores the lack of confidence in political representation for the black community, specifically amongst black men. While Peterson's article investigates the vernacular phrase of dead presidents in the multifaceted sense of money, death, and political representation, my sole focus is on the trajectory of dead presidential representation in earlier eras of hip-hop versus black presidential representation now. Peterson claims that the signifying difference here, that distinction between presidents and dead presidents, captures the central tension between those artisans of hip-hop who are continuously challenged by the American dream-like success with accompanying capitalistic pursuits and an audience within hip-hop culture that desires its own economic success, but only occasionally connects economic empowerment to political representation. The difference now is that some rappers have established themselves as multi-million-dollar moguls making music, movies, and fashion who are within the upper echelons of classes of new money. Some of these rappers have come to understand that despite obtaining financial American dream, politics and social issues still play a major role in their lives, especially since the Bush era. Some of these hip-hop artists then have made it their prerogative to seek representation not just financially but politically. Peterson cites historian Manning Marable from his work, Living Black History. The most progressive elements of hip-hop culture articulate a language of protest, yet their creative talents rarely yielded new modes of collective intervention that could forcefully challenge the existing structures of political power and corporate capitalism. I would venture to argue that this is precisely what this wave of hip-hop artists accomplished with their music during the election of President Obama. Young Jeezy's My President on his third album, appropriately titled The Recession, may not have been the first single released within hip-hop that referenced Barack Obama, but it was one of the most pervasively played singles on mainstream radio out of all songs exampled in this paper. The Recession was released in September 2008, selling 260,000 copies in its first week, landing it in the #1 spot on the Billboard charts. Both the single and album attracted the attention of CNN and other media outlets, all the while getting constant airplay on the radio. Complete with a verse by the so-called conscious rapper Nas, My President was a hit record with great political savvy. Jeezy begins his song with the hook. My president is black, my Lambo's blue, and I'll be goddamn if my rims ain't too. My money's light green and my Jordan's light gray, and they love to see white. Now how much you trying to pay? The color codes of race have historically demarcated the black male body. Thus, the significance of color constantly shapes the identity of young black men. Jeezy assigns color to other aspects of his life, mostly material items like his car, his money, and even his sneakers. His mode of profit, white, a slang reference to cocaine, is the only whiteness that produces positive material gain, despite its highly negative and dangerous associations. Further on in this verse, Jeezy begins to engage himself in a political discourse while criticizing former President Bush. Just because you got opinions, does that make you a politician? Bush robbed all of us. Would that make him a criminal? And he cheated in Florida. Would that make him a criminal? I say, and I quote, we need a miracle. And I say a miracle because this shit is hysterical. Young Jeezy begins to directly reference Obama in verse 2 of this song. Jeezy calls for a miracle in the previous lines and continues to call for change. He also makes the comparison of Barack Obama to Martin Luther King Jr., while his wordplay suggests that Obama is like a king. Tell him I'm doing fine, Obama for mankind. We ready for damn change, so y'all let the man shine. Stunting on Martin Luther, feeling just like a king. Guess this is what he meant when he said that he had a dream. Stunting implies outperforming any type of competition, be it lyrically or financially, and in this case, rhetorically and politically. King was admired for his compassion and hope, so Jeezy is speaking on the pretense that Barack Obama is being admired for the same reason, which allows him a status of king, a comparison we will see more of in another song. The last verse of the song introduces rapper Nas with his thoughts on Barack Obama, and I'm cutting this in half. Yeah, history, black history, no president ever did shit for me, had to hit the streets, had to flip the keys so a nigga won't go broke. Mr. Black President, yo Obama for real, they gotta put your face on the $5,000 bill. Nas is recapitulating his thoughts from his song, The World Is Yours, critically engaged by Peterson in the Presence essay, where he suggests a call-response theme of the phrase, I'm out for presidents to represent me.